hi to future me, because I will be the only one watching this video, as I have come to find. But today, I have made a handy little outline to explain why PB haters are dumb as rocks. First order of business, I will be laying out, hopefully unbiasedly, I'll do my best, the events that have caused people to hate PB, and then I will go on to explaining why the reasonings for hating PB because of these events are dumb as... I'm not gonna curse within the first 5 minutes of the video this time. I'm gonna do my best. So let's just go in order. People don't like PB because she purposefully made the Candy citizens to be less intelligent and more docile than she is. When PB was separated from the Mother Gum, all she had was herself and her brother Nettie. And her brother Nettie did not have the capabilities to connect with her on the level that she desired because they were so different. So PB goes on to create more gum life that resembles her, to be her family, her protectors and whatnot. This does not go entirely to plan, as Uncle Gumbald is more worried about the gain of power, the gain of money, and that goes against what PB wanted for her family. PB didn't want to control others originally, and she didn't want to be controlled. And when Uncle Gumbald goes around making all these orders, obviously that perturbed her. At this point, she's a child, so she has not fully developed her sense of morality. She's still getting that development from her surroundings and from the people around her. And at this point, PB isn't doing anything wrong. She's simply defying what Uncle Gumbald is doing, which she is under no obligation to obey him in any way. And this leads to Uncle Gumbald retaliating by planning to intellectually incapacitate her. PB had no plans of revenge until she found out Uncle Gumbald's plan. And even at that point, it wasn't revenge. It was her protecting herself by using their plan against them. It was not malicious in any way. And this was also an extremely traumatic and formative event for Princess Bubblegum. Because of this, she's gonna have like some reservations about creating life that's on her level if it has gone so poorly to the point that her entire family betrays her. So from then on, still craving this company, she decides to only create Candy citizens that are at the same level intellectually as her previous family that she dumped down. Because at this point, those are the only people that she is safe around, because otherwise, you know, like the one time that she tried to make equals, they turn against her. And this is seen again when later on, even like long after she's created her Candy Kingdom, she has all her citizens, and she still has this desire for somebody who can be her equal and connect with her on the same level. And so she creates Lemon Grab, and Lemon Grab also goes wrong. Under no, I understand that it's Princess Bubblegum's fault, or her responsibility, that she created Lemon Grab, but we know that she did not intend to make a being that would suffer like Lemon Grab does. She wanted someone who she could have a rapport with, who could rule alongside her. And this just confirms to her again that it is not safe for her to make equals. This inability to make beings that are on her level means that she is fully in charge of all of her Candy citizens with no assistance. And later on, when she has her established kingdom and the established banana guards, she realizes that the guards are not very proficient at taking care of crime because they're at the same intellectual level as all her other citizens, which is basically that of like elementary school children. In order to solve this problem, she creates the Rattleball Boys, the Gumball Guards, and she designs them to be predisposed to violence, but also 100% loyal to her. So when she gives them an order, they're supposed to obey 100%. And I take this as being that she did not necessarily intend to make the Rattleball Boys sentient. When she discovers their possible sentience, it is in the context of them creating underground fight rings where they kill each other. knowing PB's past, in which she tries to make equals and they all end up violent or inconsiderate or betray her, she has the Rattleballs executed. I do not view this the same as killing a Candy citizen when looking at it through PB's eyes, because these were not Candy citizens, these were robots. Robots programmed to obey her 100% that now appear to be rebelling in some way, in a way that is violent, and we know that that has never ended well for PB before. Later on, we have one that I will admit is one of PB's worst moments, where she recommends the Flame King imprison Flame Princess. And this is because, as we know, Flame Princess is extremely OP, could destroy the world levels of OP if she cannot manage her emotions. And PB finds her as a baby, abandoned by the Flame King, who got rid of her because he didn't want an heir that would be more powerful than him. So he abandons an infant in the woods, and PB finds her and takes her back, and her compromise is keep Flame Princess contained. This is obviously pretty horrific, but when you think about it, what else could she really do? She had no means of creating something that could care for Flame Princess, because all of her attempts to make life that are on a higher intellectual level have failed horrifically. And she's already so overworked at the Candy Kingdom that she cannot take on another responsibility this big. And so I think it was an act of desperation, because put yourself in her shoes and tell me you had any other solutions to this. Containing Flame Princess, still with her family in her original kingdom, is the most peaceful option that PB could have taken. Because otherwise, what, is she just gonna kill this baby? Learning that FP is now out in the world, she does not make efforts to re-imprison her, because she sees that FP is not doing anything wrong. She simply warns Finn that if he causes Flame Princess to have too much of an emotional reaction, Flame Princess could quite literally destroy all life on Earth. It's entirely Finn's fault that he chose not to listen. However, okay, pause. It's Finn and Jake's fault for not listening, because Jake had the ability to stay behind and he just like, I love Jake, but we know that Jake is not the most reliable character. Another point that comes up in this is, why is PB taking taxes from Finn and Jake? They're not citizens of the Candy Kingdom. Very fair point, very fair point. However, Finn is enlisted as PB's knight. He technically, in a way, works for PB, and the setting in which he and Jake are in, most of the time, if they're not in the grasslands or adventuring, it will be the Candy Kingdom, where they do expend resources from the kingdom. On top of this, PB knows Finn and Jake, and she knows Finn and Jake don't use their money. Like, they live on a sort of like, I do something for you and I get a little something in return sort of basis, wherein money is not super important to them. Like, Adventure Time does not take place in the same economy that we live in today in the modern West. It's not comparable. And we see that money means so little to Finn and Jake in that episode, Money and Meat, where they literally just blow it all on random useless crap. PB, on the other hand, works in a leadership role where she has to interact with other kingdoms' officials, and she needs monetary funding to continue with her scientific practice and her running of the Candy Kingdom and her, just all of her administrative work. And in the episode, Finn and Jake do not seem to mind that PB is taking some taxes from them. Like, I feel like this is such a non-issue in the PB hateration. Moving on, a lot of people don't like PB for her apparent disregard of life. And I want to stop you there because that's just simply false. People cite the Rattleball's genocide and her use of cloning to support this. I want to argue the exact opposite. First of all, I've already went over why the Rattleball situation unfolded as it did, but as for cloning, PB employs cloning because she loves her citizens so much. In the James episode, the reason that she chooses James to be the sacrifice instead of Finn and Jake is because she has the means to make another James. This doesn't mean that she does not care about James, but she knows that Finn and Jake are irreplaceable, and James, she has the ability to, in her mind, create an identical copy. I say in her mind, but really within the logic of the show, it is an identical copy. Every clone of James retains memories from the previous cloning. And James himself displays a lack of regard for his own life because he is also aware that he will continue to exist no matter how often he dies. PB choosing to continue to clone James is proof of her value of James, because otherwise she would just forget about it. She would just replace him with a different Candy citizen altogether, but she doesn't. She retains James even after he becomes a nuisance and continues sacrificing himself to get these rewards that he wants. She doesn't punish him in any way. She uses his own desire for reward to solve the issue of him continuously killing himself. I just realized there was a instance I forgot to mention about the Fire Kingdom. So with the Fire Kingdom, she is spying on them, obviously. PB spies on a lot of people, and she can gather from that there is at least one person in the Fire Kingdom, a part of the ruling administration, that desperately wants to destroy the Candy Kingdom. PB knows well enough from her background that it only takes one bad seed to cause some horrible events to take place. So obviously she's wanting to keep an extra eye on the Fire Kingdom to protect herself and all of her citizens whom she loves dearly. This leads to her betraying Flame Princess once again and disabling all of the Flame Guardians in the Fire Kingdom, which have a huge cultural significance to the Flame people and also are their last line of defense when stuff goes to shit. This is bad. This is bad. I admit that this is bad. However, once again, we look at the people who are in the ruling of the Flame Kingdom. PB is used to the Flame King's influence, and I can't remember, it's either FP's brother or her uncle or something that wants to destroy PB's kingdom. This is maybe the one point that I have to concede to with PB haters. This is the one thing that she did that was truly bad, because you would hope by now she would realize that Flame Princess is a far more competent and compassionate ruler than Flame King ever was. But there still is the lingering threat, and I feel like people have a vendetta against PB where they just simply don't want to empathize with her position. And at the end of the day, like, she let the Flame Kingdom keep one of their Flame Guardians. She just wants to ensure that her kingdom specifically will not be destroyed, because again, she's like a mother to all of her citizens. She would be destroyed if she lost them. Next reason people hate PB, and I find this to be the most egregiously wrong and disgusting interpretation of PB, and I just cannot tell how people are coming to this conclusion without purposefully deluding themselves. And of course, this is being she groomed Finn. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. PB has had zero romantic interest that we know of besides Marceline. When she was set up with Mr. Cream Puff, she had no interest in him. And she has no interest in Finn romantically. She views Finn as her knight. And Princess Bubblegum is a person that likes to fit herself into roles. She's very logical and low-key, high-key, extremely autistic. PB takes on a motherly, nurturing role because she never had that, and that was the role that was forced upon her in taking care of her brother Nettie and having to take care of the dumbed down Candy citizens that she was forced to create that way at fear of harm to herself. One instance in which she kisses Finn, it's because he wins Wizard Battle, and that was the prize. There was no romantic connotation. It was simply, on paper, the prize is a kiss, and so since he won, he gets a kiss. Under normal circumstances, a person raised in a expansive society with people that are children and people that are adults, one naturally comes to that realization that, hey, you know, kids are not on the same intellectual level, and I shouldn't be interacting with them romantically. They can't handle that. PB, her main interactions are with her Candy citizens, which are basically children, and the people that are her equals, which are oftentimes threats to her. And even with... Hello? And even with her Candy And within the Candy Kingdom, even though the Candy citizens are of lesser intelligence, that of like an elementary school child, they do live their lives as adults and have romantic relationships and whatnot. And that is PB's main socialization for most of her life. When she comes into contact with Finn, Finn is around like 12, 13, and he is going through puberty. So he has a lot of those childlike traits that mirror the Candy citizens, but he's also capable of carrying along somewhat intellectual conversation with PB. Notice how she always refers to Finn as her knight and never as her prince. Knight is a service role, and princess is a leadership and a nurturing role. And PB plays out the role of a nurturing, protective figure of Finn in turn for his knight services. Adventure Time does not have the same political norms as the modern West. We've been over this. We have no way of knowing how much PB knows about humankind. And she obviously, outside of Marceline, has a very rudimentary understanding of romance. She refers to having used to date Mr. Cream Puff, even though she was set up and that was her performing the role of girlfriend and not really actually being in love with this guy. And you can see this again in one of the episodes with Root Beer Guy and Cherry Soda, I think. When she makes them, she sits them next to each other and says, "You're married." And from that point, they're married. And it's more so a role that they fulfill. PB is very logical. She reads something in a book and she's like, okay, this is how it is. She had no role model to look up to teach her things. She taught everything that PB knows, she taught herself. Can you think about that? Like, that's crazy. And it's not just science, it's all of her social interactions. And like, she's so logical because she had no other choice but to learn these things in such a way. When she learns about the role of a princess, she puts herself in that role and she performs it. And part of performing that role of princess is adoring and rewarding your knight. Even in the episode Too Young, where PB is reconstructed and there's not enough material, so she is technically at the capacity of a 13-year-old. And once again, she's not human, so it's still not the same. She does not show romantic interest in Finn. That is purely up to interpretation. She goes around having fun with Finn, doing normal kid things with Finn, something that she was never able to do. And she expresses wanting to stay here with Finn because she enjoys being a kid and not having all these responsibilities. It was never said in the show that she wanted to continue being a kid because she was in love with Finn and wanted to date Finn as a kid. As soon as she goes back to being her normal age, she rejects Finn. And people want to use that too, to be like, oh, she's so cold, she's so blah, 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 she's so mean, she's so inconsiderate. But to her, things are simply what they are factually. Like, she hasn't had to consider the emotions of others at a higher level than an elementary school child. So she is going to communicate with somebody that she views as being younger than her on that same level still, and continue performing the role that she's comfortable playing as princess and knight. Like, and this is what I don't get. You get mad at PB for unknowingly feeding into Finn's crush on her, but you also hate her for rejecting him? Please make it make sense. Like, I'm baffled. I'm truly befuddled by this. Moving on to another point that I absolutely despise. People want to reference the creation of Goliad and Goliad turning out wrong as proof that PB is just evil in her DNA. Since when do we believe that DNA is the sole reason for every aspect of somebody's being? People want to cite PB's inclusion of her DNA in Goliad as the reason that Goliad turned out the way that she did. But we see that soon after Goliad is born, she is exposed to Jake using yelling and force to get people to cooperate. And that is the first time that she sees a goal that she is after achieved through a somewhat violent action. And once again, PB has created something that is not docile like the Candy citizens, and it immediately rebels against her. Notice how these more intelligent beings that she keeps creating, she does not make them to be violent on purpose. They end up that way. PB is not a god. It's impressive enough that she's able to create life. Why are we expecting her to be able to create a perfectly moral being? Then finally we have PB lying about her age and telling Finn that she's 19 at first. To me, this is simply her having some base knowledge about humans, probably the human lifespan, because we know that she likes to research and she's interested in science. And I think this was an attempt to not freak Finn out, because she doesn't know what kind of beings Finn is used to interacting with. Finn met PB before Marceline, and I don't think that she knows how Finn would have reacted to meeting somebody as old and as different. I think this was a misled attempt at relating to Finn, as presenting herself as being similar to Finn so that they could have a better rapport. I'm not saying that justifies it, but I understand the mindset that would have led to that. And at the end of the day, what did PB saying that she was 19 instead of like over thousands of years old really do to harm anybody? Like, what was any negative repercussion that came from that? Absolutely nothing. Okay, my bad. It's okay, I got you. Anyways. Motherfucker! Actually, I forgot 2 points because they're just that stupid. The episode in which PB sabotages Tree Trunk's wedding, King of Ooh was literally about to sign them unknowingly into indentured servitude. Like, I can't blame her for wanting to prevent that. And then also the terraforming the planets of Tree Trunk's children. She didn't know, and when she found out, she immediately stopped. Anyways, on to my next thing. You know what, guys? I gotta admit, that was literally insanely biased, and it's okay, because that actually saves me time. My next section was gonna be all of the character explanations as to why PB does the things that she does, but I feel like we've kind of got that down pat. So I've explained to you how PB in many ways is a very tragic character that is, like, her character is so rich. You can really see how her background carries through in all of her actions, and you hopefully now can understand how she thinks and why she does what she does. Which brings me to, I feel like, my most effective point at explaining how PB haters really are likely just misogynistic. And that is that the Ice King, one of the most beloved characters in the whole show, has done things on the exact same caliber as PB and with less good intentions behind it. So we know that the crown sort of has deteriorated Ice King's mind, so he does not have as solid a grasp on sanity, I guess, but it is apparent in the show that he still understands morals. He understands when he does a bad thing, and he simply can't make himself care that he's done a bad thing. The simplest comparison we have is that Ice King also spies and he also lies. But when he does it, it's just for the laughs, right? It's fine because he's the Ice King. Like, he can't be held responsible for his actions. As opposed to PB, who is incredibly considerate, Ice King has displayed insane inconsideration throughout the whole show. And it's not because he doesn't understand. Again, in the show, we have proof that he understands when he does wrong. It's that he doesn't care. Simon, on the other hand, is inconsiderate in a way that's very similar to PB, in that he is just kind of in his own world. He's very logical, and if you don't tell him something straight up, he's probably not going to consider it. I have a lot of sympathy for that. I'm kind of the same way. But we see this in how he treats Betty, when instead of helping Betty pursue her dreams just as much as Betty is assisting him, he just doesn't even consider the idea because he's so one-track minded. As Ice King, however, he is proudly inconsiderate. He kidnaps, he harasses constantly, and it's not in the same way that PB spies. He does this for a romantic, emotional, personal gain, not for his physical safety. If you remember the episode Monster Wife, he literally snuck into princesses' rooms as they slept and dismembered them, disfigured them, stole their body parts, and sewed them together into a wife made of these pieces of people that did not consent, and gave it sentience, and didn't give it any other, or her, sorry, didn't give her or them, whatever, any other, you kids and your pronouns these days, goddamn. He didn't offer them any other influence, and in fact groomed them into being his wife. Like, you see them in front of the TV and he's saying, look, they're just like us, normal. And I feel like people don't acknowledge that enough. Like, that is a horrific action. That episode as a kid, like, legit fucked me up. I was like, oh my god, like, this person can't help what they are, and they're under his full control, and at the end they fucking die. They die! And then there's Ice King's own little genocide with the furniture friends that he brought to life, and as soon as he didn't like how they turned out, he killed them. Again, not for his safety, for his emotional comfort. And then at the end, he completely blows off a real friend, like a real genuine friend, life-giving Magus. What, for the same reason that he's just not precisely exactly what he wants. In a way, Princess Bubblegum and Ice King are like mirrors of each other. There are so many parallels. But the difference is being that Ice King is a man, and many of his misdeeds are played for laughs. If you actually read into them the way that motherfuckers want to read into PB in all the wrong ways, we would hate Ice King way more than PB, because he does things simply because he's selfish, not to protect anybody. And Ice King remains a fan favorite, while PB remains hated. Why? Why? Because she's an intelligent woman. Because she's an intelligent woman, and you don't like that, do you? You don't like that. And you can say, oh, it's the crown that makes Ice King do these things. It's the crown. Yes, partially it is the crown. But Ice King still retains himself. He still retains the knowledge of good and bad. He shows guilt and shame within the show. In the same way that Ice King is shaped by his past and shaped by what he's been through and going through, PB is also shaped by her past and shaped by what she's going through. But we can't compare for some reason. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why, and the only thing that makes logical sense to me is just misogyny. That being said, I literally love every character in Adventure Time except LSP. One thing we can all bond over is our extreme hatred of that little fucking bitch. Anyways, I hope you have a lovely day. I love you so much. Yeah.